Good evening and welcome to the regular City Council meeting of April 14th, 2022. City Clerk, please take the roll.
Mayor Hartke.
Here.
Vice Mayor Rowe.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Stewart.
Here.
Councilmember Ellis.
Here.
Councilmember Orlando.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, City Clerk. Our invocation tonight will be brought by Susan Stevens Clark of the Chandler Baha'i Community and our Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Matt Orlando. Susan, welcome.
Thank you. If you join me in prayer, please. This is a prayer for America. O thou kind Lord, this gathering is turning to thee. These hearts are radiant with thy love. These minds and spirits are exhilarated by the message of thy glad tidings. O God, let this American democracy become glorious in spiritual degrees, even as it has aspired to material degrees, and render this government victorious. Confirm this revered nation to upraise the standard of the oneness of humanity, to promulgate the most great peace, to become thereby most glorious and praiseworthy among all nations of the world. O God, this American nation is worthy of thy favors and deserving of thy mercy. Make it precious and near to thee through thy bounty and bestowal. Amen.
Well, keeping with our theme here of honoring our nation, let's honor America through our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That was a little weak, Council.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Councilmember Orlando. Council, on our agenda is, at this point, everything is on consent. I do know there is some conversation specifically around item number 11, but all things equal, unless there's a move to take it off consent. I've only got one speaker card, so let's see if we can just do this all as one. I do know that with item number 11, we talked about that on Monday. As I mentioned, I do have a speaker card. So Council, you have any questions for staff before? Oh,
Mayor,
2 speaker cards. Okay. Do you have any questions with staff? I know we did that on Monday before we have listened to the speakers.
Mayor,
Councilmember Orlando.
can we just this recently, I want to talk a little bit about this easement that is a concern from one of the residents in that area. Can someone address that? About moving the poles? Help me understand the light poles there.
Good afternoon, good evening. Through the mayor, Councilmember Orlando, the easement, if I understand the question correctly,
I guess the resident's saying that it's going directly on her property, the drive, or, you know, the access to the drive. And I'm just curious what's that issue's all about.
so directly south of the proposed development, there is an easement, a 25-foot easement along the southern property line, the adjacent properties. Let me see if I can pull up an exhibit to better describe this.
Thank you.
See that? Okay, so at the edge of the subdivision here at the southwest corner, uh, the property owner to the south, which is located within Maricopa County, it's a unincorporated property. There's a 25-foot easement that runs across their property all along the west, and it's a utility easement. Uh, there's power poles in the middle of the street. And so under that easement, it's to for SRP to locate their power poles. And so as part of this development, the power pole is going to be relocated to the corner to get out of the way of traffic.
So just the one pole will be moved?
Um, yes, because that's the one most impacted.
So where the blue is on this chart, again, I apologize, just the question was given to me no more than 10 minutes ago. This blue area here, is that where the easement, is the pole would go to the west of that?
So it would be directly west of that. So the blue is the adjacent Treelands property, and then directly to the other side of it, the not outlined property, that's the 25-foot easement that exists. Because currently there's SRP poles in there, and so as part of Hazelwood's development, they're required to underground their SRP poles. And so since they're undergrounding them all along their property, this one falls right at the corner or right in the center of the road. And so they've offered to relocate it to the corner versus bringing the ground wires, pardon me, the ground wires up and into the middle of the pole.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. And I'll have other questions if the speakers, but I just want to get that one on. So on record, they have to, they do own the easement, SRP, so they could therefore do whatever they want to do by law or by rights, I guess, right?
If I could, I would like to defer this to the city attorney. She
Good
knows
move, good move. I would do the same thing.
If I may, Mayor. Councilmember Orlando, there is that 25-foot utility easement. SRP clearly has facilities within that easement. Obviously, any movement of their poles will be coordinated with SRP and they will dictate where they go. But the property right already exists and has existed, which is why there is a pole in the middle of the road. I'm not sure how that all worked out, but it's not really a road, and the pole's there, but for safety and for service, it
Understand.
needs to be relocated.
So, okay, so obviously with the SRP already have rights to that, there is no remittance or anything for the owner of that property. I know that's a yes answer, but I want to make sure on the record, so.
If I may, yes, that is absolutely correct. That easement covers that area,
Okay.
and it's already in place.
All right, thank you.
All right, council. So is there no additional questions from staff? I did follow up with our conversation on Monday. and offered 2 more steps. I believe they're in front of you, 8 and 9. That number 8 talks about the irrigation canal and maintenance thereof, and as well as number 9, looking at further speed mitigation. Both 8 and 9, I guess, also talking about further speed mitigation on there. So that's also in front of you, and we could read that if necessary once that comes into the, but I would like to stip that into this as well. So council would you like a presentation from the developer before we do the speakers?
Mayor, real quick,
Council member.
the residents, have they seen these 2 stipulations?
They have not, because I just came up with that. I was talking with city manager just before this meeting. So it's probably worth reading them, is your point?
Or maybe, do we have a copy for them to at least look at, or we could read them? I mean, I'm just wondering, because there's a barricade in here. I don't know what that means, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, these are good. I think they're good improvements. Thank you, Mayor, for working on this. But I'm just curious if
Yeah.
we share this with the residents.
Okay. All right.
Mayor, is this an issue that we can table?
Wow.
I see no reason why we would want to table this issue.
Well, only because if the residents haven't seen the steps, these looks good to me as well. But
Yeah.
do you think that, tabling it so that way the residents can see what the additional steps were?
Residents rarely see steps when we make them from the days here.
Okay.
So rather than just stating them, I had city manager make a copy for each of you. So this is common practice of what we normally do in terms of making steps from up here.
All right.
So. Yeah, we did. We did discuss these particular items on there. So, all right, council. So no interest. If there's no interest, or I should say, does the landowner, do you want to make a presentation with this? Otherwise, we'll go straight to the neighbor comment cards. Good. All right. Very good. Ken, you were wise, because I said I would at least give you equal time as they were, and so they're not making any comments. So I have 2 cards up here. We'll start with Teresa Martinez Stoll, and then I've promised Mr. McAllister some additional time other than 3 minutes after this. And so Ms. McAllister, or Ms. Stoll, I'm sorry. Teresa Martinez Stoll? If you'd state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to share your concerns. The lights will be green. With 30 seconds left, it'll turn yellow.
My name is Teresa Stoll. I'm 23815 South 124th Street. I am the homeowner who's the property that's going on the north side of mine. Also, I am the one that has the easement on private property. My question to you, the attorney just said that is not a road in her statement just a moment ago. It is an easement. It is on private property. So I'd like to know who they've talked to with SRP and who's granted that permission to make that move on that pole on my property. There's 2 poles that are in the middle of the road. Why are we doing 1 and not 2? The other thing is, I feel that first pole, they're trying to remove the pole for the convenience of them, or the city, to direct traffic onto that easement. Again, the attorney said is not a road. That is private property. So I haven't had time to look at any documentations. So yeah, I appreciate whoever said they'd like to, push this back. So at least as homeowners have the right to take a look at the documentation that was brought to you, that was never given to any of the homeowners, especially me, who's directed on both sides. I've got the tree farm side and I've got the new Hazelwood. So it's affected me all the way around. So again, I'd just like you guys to consider, some little bit more detailed information, a little bit more communication, instead of us coming to these city meetings and obviously getting things thrown to us and saying, oh, well, we're not going to table this because they don't need to know about it. I, again, don't have the time to look at it right now. So please consider that. I'd like to take a look at what the city has on their plans for development of that easement where they're trying to direct traffic onto that easement, again, which is not a road. Thank you.
So a couple things. I'm more than willing to not add these additional steps for traffic calming if the neighbors would prefer. So on that, if that's what you guys would like, I'm fine with.
You're putting things in our words into our mouth. That is not what we're saying. I'd like to read and see what
Yeah.
was presented. I don't even know what was presented.
Yeah.
I haven't, 3 minutes ago from the time I got up is when I got that document given to me. So again,
Okay.
it'd
Thank
be
you.
courtesy to, table it and give us the time to take a look and review what was given to us as a homeowners.
Yeah.
Thank you.
City Attorney, can you address her other concerns about the polls again?
If I may, Mayor, as far as the poles and the easement, any movement of those poles is going to have to be through plans with SRP. And that'll be, I don't think the city has any plans in particular other than our undergrounding requirement and a general idea of what can happen. But that has to be coordinated with SRP, who controls those poles and who has rights under the utility. As far as the easement, I don't know. I know it's a utility easement. I don't know what other rights other property owners may have on that. I just know what the public does not have. And there's the utility easement, and that's the only document I know that would affect the public in that strip of land along Ms. Stoll's property.
Okay.
Mayor, I still would like to make a motion to table this and to come back to it in 30 days.
Okay. Mayor, we have a motion on the floor.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a
I'm
second?
going to second it just for discussion purpose. That's all. Okay.
Okay.
Doesn't mean I'm supporting. I want to get more dialogue here without cutting off debate. That's what I want to make sure we do. Okay. So, Mayor, I guess this barricade and some of these other, which is, again, I want to go back and commend you and staff and whoever else worked with this, but I think, we make sure we want to communicate with the residents what this really means. How much of this is new? You don't have to answer that, maybe staff, someone can answer this. How much of this is new ideas versus some proposed ideas that's already been in the document? In these particular items here. I know we talked about the striping. I know we talked about some signage, barricading. I don't think we brought that up on Monday night. Again, this is all good stuff if this would help mitigate traffic. And then defer the west side of the street improvements. I don't think we talked about that. So I'm saying there's elements in here we did speak about, and there's elements in here I think is new to me at least as well.
If I could, through the mayor, Councilmember Orlando, after Monday's study session, and I apologize, I gave my copy away too, so I can't read it verbatim, but after Monday's study session, there were a couple of answers or a couple of inquiries that were asked of, thank you. One was future maintenance of the irrigation ditch. And so in the memo prepared before you, stipulation number 8, that was already included in the memo. The residents have seen it. The only thing that has been added to it is midway through the paragraph, it discusses it would be maintained per state law because the question was if something was to happen later in the future after being undergrounded, how would it be maintained? And it's a private agreement between the two property owners, but they follow the state statute and the state law. So that's what the first stipulation is. And then the second stipulation is there were some concerns about the amount of work that we've done regarding traffic calming out along 124th Street. So we outlined, and I do have a PowerPoint calling all of those out so we can walk you through and
Yeah.
show you those, and I can ask Dana to come up. But the stipulation that was added states that a speed hump will be added out along 124th Street. As well, it goes on to say, a speed study shall be conducted by the developer 6 months after the final certificate of occupancy is issued to determine if traffic improvements or alterations are deemed necessary along 124th Street
And
to
here comes,
further, evaluate if traffic out along 124th Street and this new development is a detriment to the neighborhood.
so let me be clear, okay? These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, under item 8, were these always in the document or these are new?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Orlando, that's a different, pardon me, that's a different paragraph. So those bullet points that you're looking at, pardon me, are the items that we've, like I
Already
said, I have a
in-
PowerPoint that walks through, through striping, signage, barriers. That's what these bullet points are talking about. Everything that we've done to allow for the most traffic calming methods. And then on the bottom of the second page, and then onto the third page, that's the new stipulation. It would be a new stipulation under the ordinance, the rezoning, requesting that a speed hump be installed.
Okay,
Not,
So-
Councilmember, all those things that are those bullet points are the result of multiple meetings we had with those two, with the two citizens.
so these were in the package on Monday night.
Correct, yeah, they were actually, the actual drawing.
Got it.
That dictates all of them were actually presented to the two residents before we even went to planning commission.
Okay, that was my question so all this was in the packet Monday night, and hopefully residents had a chance to look at that because it's been published for a couple of weeks now, a week and a half now. The only thing new was we added per state law on number 8,
Yes, sir.
and then we added, obviously, the mayor's suggestion the other night, the speed hump with the speed study. Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
including relocating the pole with some.
Okay, I appreciate it. I feel more comfortable now. This is just, other than those 3 things I just pointed out, everything's been discussed or should have been discussed. Okay, thank you, Mayor.
All right, is there further, there is a
Mayor.
motion on the floor. There is a
Mayor, discussion point.
council member.
So just to make sure I understand it too. So again, these have been discussed, presented, again, all the stuff that we went through and hashed out on Monday. This is just codifying it, should I say, in a document saying that we want to make sure that that is put in the stipulation so that this is adhered to what we talked about on Monday because it was not really documented previously. Would that be safe to say or?
That's correct, Mayor, Councilmember. I do want to say though, some of the things in the bullet point list that's there is not on the property that ultimately is the responsibility of Hazelwood. The adjoining tree land, some of those improvements are on a separate piece, but because both of them are coming at the same time, we were negotiating with the citizens exactly what that whole street would look like.
Okay.
So some of that in that memo actually applies to the tree land, not subject for tonight. But
Okay.
this is there for context.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, so without further comment, we need to vote on this motion of Councilmember Harris, which would be to delay this for a month. Is that correct? Can you read that back to us, somebody?
30 days.
30 days, all right.
Just
Nope.
enough time to review the calming measures that was included, so that way the residents can feel that they've been supported in understanding the calming measures of.
So the only additional calming measure was a speed bump.
Right.
Everything else they've seen, or it's been available and under discussion, or it was part of tree land. So we're really, you're moving this for 30 days as a speed bump.
Okay.
Okay.
No, again, Councilmember, sorry, Mayor. Again, I was concerned, like I think some folks up here as well, is that they're being presented this information, those 10 bullets for the first time. But I heard staff say, no, this has been ongoing discussion. So it's just probably printed out on one piece of paper for the first time. Okay,
Okay, yeah,
that's the difference.
because the residents
Right.
shared that they felt that they wasn't informed about it. That's why I
Right.
wanted to go into it.
And then the per state law was new, right? Because we already had a stip 8 in there already. And I apologize. And then 9, the mayor proposed the other night about the speed bump. Staff went back and looked at it and said, it does conform to our traffic plan, so it's okay to do that. And then the applicant, again, I'm just summarizing, forgive me,
Go,
please.
go ahead.
And then the applicant went back and said, hey, not only we do that, we'll do a traffic study to see if traffic is going south.
Okay,
Fair enough?
that's fair. I just wanted to make sure that the residents are
No, I
supported.
understand.
It sounds like they have the information, but I wanted to make sure that a staff supports them in the process after this process.
Okay.
Okay.
So Councilmember, do you still want this motion or do you want to rescind your?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to rescind the motion of tabling the
Okay.
withdraw.
Withdraw.
I just withdraw.
Okay,
And I second, Mayor, I withdraw the motion.
all right. We don't, since it's rescinded, we don't need to vote on any of that.
Right.
Okay. All right. Apologize, a little more moving items here. Our next speaker card is Ken McAllister. And Ken, I'll give you 6 minutes per, like we discussed.
Well, there's no need for me to go into my presentation except for a couple of things. If I may show you a video. Not that one. This one here. This is on 124th, right outside my residence. If you'll watch in the background, notice the Jeep flying up the street. Did you see that, Mayor? Did the council see that? Let me share with you another video. This is right at the very beginning because I cut these videos to try to make them short. A car traveling southbound. Again, going fast. Let me show you what a resident of the county island, how they drive. I don't agree with anything that your city traffic engineer has ever said, except for the other night at the study session. And she said it twice. She said that there could not be a speed bump or a speed hump. There couldn't be any commie measures like that be put in because of the traffic being too fast. And Mayor, you called her out on it and said, I'm surprised that you're saying that it would be too fast on a dirt road. The videos that I've just showed you show that people drive too fast on these dirt roads. So she is wrong. 6 months after the development goes in, you're gonna do a traffic study. Damage is already done. It's not right. I reached out to every single one of you on council asking for a sit-down meeting to discuss these items. I had one sit-down meeting. Each one of you had a personal email from me. I had 2 other phone calls, and thank you for that. But one sit-down meeting. This project was submitted for initial design with the ingress egress on Chandler Heights, and city staff knew that we as residents did not want it on 124th because of a previous development. Yet that's where they want to put it. There's many buses that go in and out of that development to drop kids off and to pick kids up in the afternoon. They're now going to have to travel across 2 lanes of traffic to get into the school with no control signal at that location where they're going to turn? How much safer is an intersection with a controlled signal? It's a lot safer. Yet, city staff is telling you that it will be not as safe. It will be less safe with a light. If traffic lights create less safe environment, why do we even have any? Why not just put four-way stops everywhere? Or are those not safe enough? There's nothing that's going to stop traffic going into that school where those buses are going to be going in. We talk about how I don't agree with the traffic engineer, worked with this specific traffic engineer on another project, which now houses Amazon, which we were told by city staff that Amazon was not going in there yet. That's what's there today. We were told that there was not going to be a controlled signal going into that development, yet there is one there today. We were told that that they could not put a ingress egress on the north side, that would never happen. Guess what's there today? I think us as residents that live around those areas know more about those areas and how the traffic is impacted than your traffic engineer. I've spent countless hours out there watching the buses, how they go in and out, what they do. Without a signal there, as soon as a bus is hit and a child is endangered, I will be reaching out to those parents and giving them a copy of this video that is being recorded tonight. I like how the city attorney said that the power pole is not located on a road. That's what we've been saying the whole time. This is not a road. This is access. This is county property. The city continually says that they have no jurisdiction over county property. Quickly, a point on the irrigation ditch, because I have 12 seconds left. The irrigation ditch is a private property matter. How can the city give a building permit to a builder that does not comply with getting permission from the residents to do that? How is the city doing that and making sure that that okay is given before they issue a permit?
Thank you, Ken. City Attorney, just for Mr. McAllister's last question about the ditch, can you elucidate on that, please?
Absolutely, Mayor. There are certain rights regarding the irrigation ditch and the right to receive water that exist today. Those rights remain despite what the council does with this development. The property owners have obligations that they have to fulfill, and this developer has to fulfill his obligations under state law. That is a private property matter, and again, nothing the council is doing tonight changes those obligations. They exist today and can be enforced today among the private property owners.
Mayor.
Councilmember Orlando.
So I know we went over this, and I apologize, but I think we had some interesting comments made tonight about our traffic study. So I'm going to ask our traffic engineer and our staff to come up again and tell us publicly again why they made that decision and what the ramifications are if they do not do that activity. Again, we went through this Monday night, but obviously this may be a new audience tonight.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Councilmember Orlando, I believe your question is regarding the kind of the bullet points that we went through, or are you asking specifically about the access? Okay, so through the mayor and council, the access on 124th is again best engineering practices. We try to minimize the number of driveways that we have or access points that we have on an arterial roadway where we can. This property specifically has frontage along an arterial and a collector and that collector has a traffic signal. So it is, from a traffic engineering perspective, the right choice to put the access on 124th. And we have located that access, per our standards. It gives enough room for turning movements at the intersection with Chandler Heights, as well as turning movements into and out of the new, Hazelwood development as proposed. As far as the traffic signal, again, since we're not recommending access there, I'm not sure that we need to get into that, but I can certainly answer questions if you'd like to on that. Again, kind of just wanted to go through some of the items that we have incorporated. We did meet with neighbors we had at least 4 meetings, and we have talked about these issues. And there's 2 main things that we were trying to get across and accomplish with these meetings. One was to address their concerns, which is to minimize traffic going southbound past the Hazelwood development and reduce speeds. And then also from a city perspective to not negatively impact safety in the area. So some of the enhancements you'll see on your screen here that we have already incorporated and have been presented, as Kevin Mayo had mentioned, they were presented to the residents prior to the Planning Commission meetings. It is posted at 25 miles an hour on this segment south of Chandler Heights. There is going to be additional striping and signage to direct vehicles into Cherrywood Place, which is the driveway the access point to the new Hazelwood development. There's additional private drive signs on either side of the road, just south of that driveway. And that's to indicate to drivers that it is basically the end of the city road or a public road and the beginning of the private drive, as mentioned earlier. There is also a public turnaround within the Hazelwood property so that people that aren't, maybe turn there accidentally and aren't intending to go through can turn around and head back north towards Chandler Heights. And then on this next slide, we continue to include, again, these are all ones that have previously been presented. Striping to narrow the road, which has a traffic calming effect. With the narrower lanes, it kind of acts like a chicane or a choker for those southbound vehicles. It also discourages cut-through traffic. The next one this next one is a sign that we added, and it's just to mimic what we were going to do. It's not on the drawing that they've seen, but it's something that will come in the as they go through the civil plans, and that is to add a pavement ends and a 20-mile advisory sign. Again, it mimics exactly what's happening on 122nd, which is just to the west of this property. And that'll go in as well. There'll be sidewalks on both sides of the roads to accommodate pedestrians. There will be a barricade at the south end of the west half street. So you'll see it on here. That is just above where that blue highlighted area is. There'll be a barricade so you physically can't go through there. Again, the intent is anyone that is going through, the intent is to push traffic over, act as a traffic calming and also a cut through traffic to discourage that. And then the last one is the deferral of those West Half Street improvements. And again, that's that blue area you see there. That would only get developed as a collector road if or when the property to the east got developed. So with that, I'll take any further questions.
Mayor.
Councilmember Lopez.
So the statement that the tree land is actually going to have also access to 24th. I don't know if that was just a misstatement or a misunderstanding, but this is the only property that will have, again, access. The tree land property to the west does not have access to 124th, only to 122nd. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. It does not have access to 124th.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
So, Mayor,
Councilmember Orlando.
would you address why we don't want to put the cut through on the North Street? By Ocotillo,
Chandler Heights.
Chandler Heights. Sorry, Chandler Heights.
The intent is not to necessarily.
Can you put that up again so we can go through it? Yeah. Visualize it. No, go back. Yeah, that's good. So tell us why the original plan was to put it.
the access?
Yeah.
So the
Why?
access on Chandler Heights, again, is a safety issue when you have vehicles traveling at 45 miles an hour, which is supposed to speed limit, sometimes greater than that. Certainly in this area, it would be greater than that on Chandler Heights. Again, best engineering practices is not to put any additional access that we don't have to on there. And because this site specifically has access and frontage on both, the correct answer is again to put it on 124th.
And the school is this, would this not having an entrance or exit there, and again, I'm not a traffic engineer, would that be safer for buses pulling out as well as residents making a left-hand turn out of that property? Or would it be a worse scenario?
Through the mayor and council member Orlando, traffic signal spacing is a big issue here, and putting in traffic signals at appropriate locations is absolutely a safety concern. We know that traffic signals, there tend to be more accidents. They tend to be rear end accidents, which is less severe, but we really have to balance when we put in a signal that it actually helps improve safety in other areas, in order to make that justification to put in a signal. At this location, because there's a signal right down, very close proximity to this, and there's neither the school itself with the buses nor this Hazelwood development would warrant a traffic signal due to the amount, the volumes that are there. It's not something that, we would recommend putting a traffic signal in. It doesn't warrant, and from the safety perspective of that, we would not recommend a traffic signal at that location.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So
Councilmember Lopez.
if you don't mind me clarifying again your statement.
Sure.
Because I think this is maybe where some of the context of the confusion comes to, that a traffic signal is not as safe, traffic calming or is not as safe. So, but you need to draw that comparison of, you're saying the traffic signal isn't as safe as just a throughway, or are you saying a traffic signal is not as safe as a non-traffic signal intersection?
It is very specific to the location. Again, we want to put a traffic signal in where there's appropriate spacing, where it's warranted by volumes or other, other of the warranting criteria. So to put a traffic signal in an inappropriate location makes it less safe.
Right.
So
Okay. So just again to clarify, so because there is an existing traffic signal already
mhm,
at the entrance to the school and at 124th,
yeah.
a four-way, larger, I would say, travel intersection,
Mhm,
putting another, and I don't know what it is, like 100 yards down the road, or maybe even less,
yeah.
but that putting an additional traffic signal so close to the one that's already in existence could cause, or more than likely, again by the numbers, cause less safe conditions.
Correct.
Okay.
And just for context too, this school has been there for a decade or more. I'm not exactly sure when
Yeah.
it in. Um, and we talk with the school districts quite often about issues that they're having. They have never had any concerns or complaints or made any kind of request for us to put a signal at this location. Again, their volumes wouldn't likely warrant it because it's buses only, but we've also not had a huge crash history here. To be honest with you, I don't know of any crashes we have here. Could certainly look into that, but it's not something that has been an issue in
So
the past.
to that point, I mean, bringing up safety of the children and buses crossing, two lanes of traffic, I think that's a valid concern. So, and again, looking through and thinking back to all the routes and the traffic around our schools right now, I don't think there is a dedicated left turn signal for buses to turn into any of the schools that are in Chandler that I've seen anyway. So, but I think that may be just something of note. Again, with as traffic, as we do grow as a city and we're approaching, build up, and if that is something that the school, again, we have any issues with buses turning into properties, that we do want to make sure our children are safe.
Of course.
Maybe just again, a seed to plant with the school district of, hey, how is, bus entry and exit in the schools, or anything that we can do to ensure that we're keeping our students safe.
Of course.
Just for future discussion, nothing to do with here, but it's a good point, I think.
Through the
Thank
mayor
you.
and Councilmember Lopez, absolutely agree that we, obviously want to keep our students safe, as well as the traveling public at large. And we do work, like I said, we do work with the school districts. We're working with them on another one right now where we are having issues with bus drop off. And in fact, not only in that situation, they're actually redoing their site plan to accommodate it in a new location because they understand the concern. So it's definitely something that we work with the districts on as it, as they identify issues or as we identify issues, something that we do have that working relationship on.
Perfect, great. Sounds like you're already doing it. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Dana.
Mhm.
Council, I have one more speaker card. Mark, say it again, please. Manje, if you'd please come and state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you for letting me speak today, Council. My name is Mark Manje. I live at 12412 East Via de Palmas in Chandler. It's directly south of the Stoles. And I just wanted to make some comments about the items that we just received as far as the new blockades and speed bumps. That's the first time that I've ever seen it. The lady over here said that she spoke to the residents in the neighborhood. I've never got a call or anything from this person. Also, as Ken mentioned, once they put in the development and they're going to do a traffic study 6 months later, if it shows that it's detrimental to the neighborhood, they going to change the ingress egress? I don't think that's going to happen. Once that ingress egress gets put in, it's done. There's nothing that's going to change that. So we need to come up with some better proposal before this development gets put in place to make sure everybody's safe. And there's one comment she made about the safety. There's a development on the corner of McQueen and Chandler Heights. They have an early turnoff. So people that go into that residential area have a safe way to get off, because she was mentioning speeds about getting rear-ended. That should be looked at as well, as to put the ingress egress on Chandler Heights, because that's something that can be done. It's done on the prior development just west of Treeland, and I'm pretty sure you guys are probably going to do the same thing for Treeland as well, as have an early turnoff, because the speeds are, people fly, just to be honest. And I think for the safety of the children, that the ingress egress needs to be on Chandler Heights and have a controlled stop there. That way everybody is safe. And also to mention that once the private drive, which is a utility easement, goes past the Stoles, it goes down to an 8-foot section. And we have a water gate, which there's no way that unless if a lot of money is spent, which I'm sure the city doesn't want to spend, that you guys are going to continue down 124th Street. And something needs to be addressed about how that that gate is going to be protected. Because right now, if you guys put the street all the way down to the edge of the southeast section of Treeland, there's nothing from a car to stop plowing into the gate and also into the neighbor's fence. So there's a lot of safety issues that go along with having the ingress egress on 124th Street.
Thank you, sir.
So that's all I have to say, and hopefully you guys will take that under consideration.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you.
Mayor. Mayor.
Council, what's your
Mayor.
preference here?
Mayor.
Councilmember Orlando.
So it was brought up twice, and I was remiss when Dana was up here. What's the whole idea of the stipulation 6 months later? What is that going to prove, and what can we do if there is an issue?
Through the mayor and council, we can study the conditions that exist out there, and if we need to make any modifications or change anything that we have out there, it gives us an opportunity to see what actually happens. Traffic study obviously gives us a good prediction of what we expect out there, but this will tell us what's actually happening.
Has the developer agreed to cover any cost if there's additional work needs to be done?
Not at this time. It's something that it would be a city street at this point, so it would be something that we would likely take on.
I'm still trying to figure out why we're doing it. If we're gonna,
Mayor, if I may.
City Manager.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of council, if I can just be clear, the STIP does require the developer to pay for anything that would be warranted out of that speed study. So it does state that if warranted, the developer or successor shall pay for said improvements or alterations arising from the speed study. So that would be at their cost.
I believe the one thing in context here, one is a speed bump being effective. Should it be removed? Is there other traffic mitigation that would be necessary with the new development in place? So that's the one change agent
Okay,
would be
got it.
this road developed and then the new development of 20 some houses coming in.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you for putting on the record.
Okay.
So Mayor, if I may.
Councilmember Lopez.
So I'm going to make a motion for the approval of our regular meeting consent agenda for April 14th, items 1 through 26.
You include the additional.
And including the additional stipulations as presented, items 8 and 9.
Right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second by Vice Mayor Rowe. Council, additional questions or comments before we vote?
Mayor,
Councilmember Harris.
I want us to continue to look at this issue. I would like to try to put this after, if there's a study that will be done or set forth, I would like us to come back and revisit the issue to make sure after the study is done that they give us an update on what that looks like. So that way we can make sure that we're being good neighbors. And I think that's appropriate because there are issues that they have. They have speeding issues that they're feeling. And we did try to do the best we can with some of the calming measures put in place. But we can't overlook the fact of what we've seen. Although maybe some of that may not necessarily be on city property as much as it is on county property, we have to look at that and then also continue to look at this traffic. There is a school there. I am very concerned about the school and the traffic. And I know that they're looking to expand on Chandler Heights. And so I want us to continue to follow this case because I want to make sure that we are doing the best we can. And I know that they moved that exit a little bit north where the light is. They moved the entry and the exit of the property a little bit more north to help with some of these issues. But I definitely want us to go back and just have another conversation, just do another follow-up. With that being said, thank you.
Yeah, City Manager, if you could just brief us on that at that particular time. So, Council, please vote.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you, Council. Next on our agenda is a briefing called in by Councilmember Harris. So I'd like to say some comments and then turn this over to our staff and then make it available for council questions. So at the request of Councilmember Harris, staff has prepared a presentation on the status of the diversity, equity, and inclusion assessment. As a reminder, on October 14th, council approved a contract with a consultant performing the assessment. The assessment began in December and council had an opportunity to meet individually with the consultant. A diverse group of organizations and community stakeholders were identified and are continuing to meet with the consultant as part of this assessment. The assessment also includes a process to engage city employees. And then later this year, the assessment findings and recommendations will be brought back to council, to us, for further consideration. I'd like to turn this over to City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. Appreciate the introduction of this item. And I am going to turn it over to our DEI Program Manager, Nikki Tapia, to present this item.
Hello, Mayor, Council. I'm happy to be with you tonight to present an update on our Chandler DEI assessment and where we are to date. But before we go into that, even though Mary, you kind of explained a little bit, I would like to backtrack and show how we got to this point. In June 2020, Mayor and Council issued a unity proclamation to the Human Relations Commission to engage with the community and make recommendations to Council to benefit the quality of life, economic opportunity, and relationships with Council. After this meeting, the Human Relations Commission went back. They started a subcommittee that met with me, our communications department, and a local DEI consultant to come up with a survey to engage residents. This was right in the middle of COVID, and it was the safest, most efficient way to engage with our residents. They worked on questions. They worked on presenting the survey in English and Spanish, and they read through every one of the 665 results that we had to come up with a recommendation to Mayor and Council. In December 2020, our chair and vice chair of the Human Relations Commission presented the survey results to City Council with the ultimate recommendation that we hire a consultant to assess our internal and external DEI efforts. On in the month of October 2021, City Council approved the contract with CPSHR for a citywide DEI assessment. And in December 2021, the kickoff of the assessment started with our lead consultant, Regina Romeo, having one-on-ones with all of you. Those one-on-ones were intended to help CPSHR understand what a productive outcome would look like for you, and to capture your individual ideas and understanding of what diversity, equity, and inclusion means to you and what you would like it to mean to the city. So now we get into the process where we start the assessment. We started with in January. You can see our arrow. I'll go through each step. But first, we opened up applications for the applicants, for residents to apply to be on the community panel. We worked again with our communications department to promote residents applying for the panel on all of our media outlets, press releases, social media advertising, and sent out to all our community partner organizations, asking them to share among their networks. You can see above, here are the 25 members who were selected. It's a very diverse panel that represents the different ages, faith, race, ethnicity, and gender of our city. Individuals were selected to represent as much diversity as possible, as well as individuals who had the time to commit to this process. Also, many of the names on this list are leaders and trusted voices in their community. It was our hope that these individuals would provide valuable input to help us in this process, as well as be able to communicate back to their communities the process so we can avoid some miscommunication. The second step of this process was the first initial kickoff meeting. This was in person, February 16th at the Chandler Public Library. There, all the panel members got to meet one another. They got to meet the lead consultant, Regina Romeo. They talked about their expectations of themselves, of the panel, of the city. They talked about what the city did well in DEI efforts, and finally, they discussed areas where we could improve. After this meeting, 5 topics were established. The topics are shown above. CPSHR used these 5 topics to create 5 separate subcommittee meetings. They sent an email to all of the panel members and they asked them to rank their first, second, and third choices for subcommittee breakout groups. A majority of the panelists were selected to be on their first choice of subcommittee topic. They had their first breakout subcommittee meetings the week of February 14th. After some discussion with CPSHR and confirmation, no city staff, none of my staff, nor I were present at these meetings. We didn't want to hinder any of the conversation by having a city face there, and we wanted to encourage open dialogue among the panelists. After these subcommittee meetings, there were an additional 6 themes that came out of those. I sent them to you in a memo dated April 8th. I can go over those later if you'd like. The next steps for the external panel is to have a second breakout subcommittee meeting the end of April. Right now, staff is looking at those additional themes that came up, and we are working citywide to find out what programs that we have that cover those topics. This is so in the second breakout subcommittee meeting, the discussion can focus around actionable recommendations based on improving what we currently do or addressing the areas we have not touched yet. Then in May, we hope to have the final at-large in-person wrap-up meeting where all the committee will be together again with Regina. She will discuss the final recommendations and the plan of action based on community input. Also, simultaneously, while this is going on, we are working on our very first internal employee assessment. This will happen at the end of April. All city employees, permanent and temporary, will get an email from CPSHR with a DEI survey. Then CPSHR will, like they did with the external panel, they will come up with themes based on the results from the city employee survey. They will come up with 5 focus groups that city employees can volunteer to be a part of. The 5 focus groups can have up to 15 employees each. We're hoping the employee focus groups facilitated by CPSHR will take place in May and June. Then finally, we're going to go into project wrap-up mode. That's where CPSHR is going to take all the information they obtained from your one-on-ones, from the external focus groups, and from the internal employee survey and employee focus groups, and they will come up with a report and recommendations. They will present to the Human Relations Commission first, and then they will present to City Council. Along with their recommendations, they are going to come up, give us a DEI action progress system. This is going to be able to help us track each recommendation, who it's assigned to, measurables, goals, and just help us better be able to keep track of how we move forward in the recommendations. Finally, as this process is going on, residents are always able to participate. We have our website, chandleraz.gov/DEI public comment, where anyone in the public can submit a comment. We're working again with our communications department to send out updates occasionally, asking our public that telling our public they still have the opportunity to comment. Also, we have a DEI assessment webpage where we put all of the information on. And then finally, I am available anytime for anyone who wants to know more about the process. And that is where we are at.
Thank you. Council questions, probably starting with Councilmember Harris, since you recommended this.
Yes, thank you so much. Can you go back on the presentation on the top 5, the break? Okay. I wanted to better understand. We talked about this in October about doing this survey because council was at a middle of the road in terms of looking at a non-discriminatory ordinance. And I wanted to better understand how does these topics play in that role, and then if there was conversation about it, or is this looking at an assessment as a whole?
So the subcommittee topics came out from the first at-large meeting, which I was present for. So the panel members just went around, kind of round robin, talking about issues that, again, how council was doing, or city was doing well in DEI efforts and areas for improvement. So these subcommittee topics were just the basic initial breakout groups. When they met in their first official breakout group meetings, different themes came up, and some of those were other issues that I know have been.
Are you talking about the non-discriminatory ordinance? Those themes came up?
Correct.
Inside the subcommittee groups?
Correct. They came up in all of the subcommittees.
So if that was a theme, why wouldn't we allow that to be? Why is that not a breakout subcommittee topic?
So it will be.
Okay.
Yeah, so right now they're going to have that second subcommittee meeting, and those are going to be based on the 6 themes. Okay. We just haven't, I'm working citywide to find out all the programs. That way, when they start talking about the second, the second themes, they have a basis of where we are, and they're just not making recommendations. It'll help us kind of get more official recommendations we can move forward on.
And so we talked about, some of the ways to measure where we are was, scientific. I know I put out there scientific polling. This looks like surveying. How are we going to actually record these accurate data result points? Is this going to be scientific, or is this going to be a survey? I know that people can weigh in now, but are we looking at something more accurate? How are we going to bring all this? What does that look like?
Well, the HRC conducted the citywide survey. So as far as we are concerned, that was a really great basis to start from. If the external community has discussion around that, then that is something that we will follow up on with CPSHR. That was an option available. But right now in those breakout groups, that hasn't been discussion.
Okay. And then I wanted to also I just kind of wanted to ask City Attorney. Um, I just kind of wanted to better understand in terms of penalties that have been set forth for non-discriminatory ordinances for other cities, and if you can also discuss the penalties at large that you've seen.
If I may, Mayor, Councilmember Harris, most, I have not, let me back up and organize my thoughts a little better. In the ordinances that have been adopted by various cities in Arizona, the penalties have been civil violations, not criminal. So civil is subject to a monetary fine, but no further punishment, no jail time or anything like that. I have not seen any of these ordinances with more strict penalties than civil.
Okay. And then as far as your understanding of what we've discussed, and obviously we have not came into a written document. It's all been kind of in conversation in terms of what that looks like in terms of um, the actual penalty part, which is civil, which we talked more along the lines of education. I wanted to know, do you know if we worked on things to like penalize businesses in terms of have we assessed fees to businesses by opting in or opting out as it pertains to non-discriminatory ordinance? Have you seen ordinances put forth where it costs businesses money from a civil perspective?
Again, if I may, Mayor, Councilmember Harris, if I understand your question, there's really, I'm only aware of one enforcement case in Arizona. And there were civil penalties assessed, but those were overturned by the Arizona Supreme Court.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you.
Council, any additional questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have no unscheduled public appearances, so next are current events. I like to wish, there's a lot of holidays kind of coming together here, some New Year's and certainly Easter around the corner. So I'd like to wish our community a very happy Easter and New Year's and other appropriate holidays. There is a Easter egg hunt going on this Saturday morning at Snedeker Park. Nobody in this room is eligible to collect eggs, but your kids or grandkids might be. So we do want to wish everyone a very happy Easter. And that's all I got. Councilmember Harris.
Yes. Okay. Thanks, Mayor. I have a few announcements actually. This past weekend, we did a fire truck ladder dedication. Councilmember Matt Orlando and I joined the former Mayor Jay Tripchaney to dedicate Chandler's newest ladder fire truck in his honor. And this is the fourth truck in Chandler history to have this dedication. And it was pretty cool. And also Chief was out there, and we took a lot of great pictures, and it was a cool experience. The other announcement I would like to let you guys know, the annual Sun Grows Spring Festival was a huge success. There were events for kids, including an Easter egg hunt, rock climbing, community vendors, and so much more. I also had the opportunity to connect with so many Chandler residents, and it was a great turnout. I know Councilwoman Ellis was there, Councilmember Matt Orlando, I believe Mayor was there. Yes, we was all hanging out in Sun Groves. It was an amazing time. So great way to connect with more of the Chandler residents. And lastly, I want to make sure that I have to do this. Chief, I don't see him here, but I want to thank the Chandler Police Department for keeping our residents first through active engagement. So community engagement is so important between public safety and the residents, and they protect, and the interaction was so beautiful. So I literally walked up on the officer. I was just kind of strolling around, and this is what I seen our officers doing. And I thought this was so remarkable. I even texted Josh, and I was like, this is what we're talking about in the city of Chandler. This is how our officers, do. And I was just so excited. So I wanted to make sure I give Officer Chris Frushner just a great accommodation for making an effort, just the kind of example that we see in our community. And I know sometimes people only see cops in a negative way because that's how the media likes to swing things sometimes. But we do have a lot of great cops in the city of Chandler. And I was glad to walk up on it. And he was there teaching, hanging out with the kids. And I was like, okay, good job. So I just wanted to put those kudos out there. Thank you.
Councilmember Lopez.
Thank you, Mayor. So, very brief announcements today. So, happy Easter to those that recognize, and also I believe we are in Ramadan also. So, happy Ramadan to those other, and happy Passover. Is it happy or merry? Good Passover. How about that? I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm culturally ignorant.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Shout out to Team Chandler. Thank you all for all the great work you always do. Thank you for sitting through these wonderful meetings from start to finish. We appreciate that. Cheryl and I are going to attend the Easter pageant at the Mesa Temple tomorrow evening. And so it's just, we've got a pretty diverse bunch of events that are going on this weekend. And then I'm going to spend Easter morning with my 90-year-old mother, and we'll have a big buffet there. So anyway, God bless everybody. Have a great Easter. Thank you.
Councilmember Ellis.
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Orlando.
Mayor, nothing tonight other than City Attorney. You'll be very happy to hear that the former mayor, they were trying to coax him up the ladder to take a picture, but the chief came out and said, no, there's a liability here. No, and all kidding aside, it was a great event, and the former mayor was very honored to have that truck done. So, thank you.
City Manager.
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, with that concludes our meeting. Thank you, Council.